Hi, I'm Ravi. I want to walk you through a quick case where prototyping helps settle a really tough UX debate and show you a new product called Dazl, a prototyping and software development tool purpose-built for product managers. I was working with a startup building an AI-powered newsreader. They had a cold start problem. During onboarding, they need to learn what topics a new user cares about. They had 50 plus topics organized into 8 different categories, things like productivity and focus, career and startups, communication and EQ, and more. And we hit a familiar debate. Do we show a collapsible experience where users drill into categories or a single long scrolling list with everything expanded? Both are defensible on paper, but wireframes don't tell you how it feels. So instead of arguing, we prototyped it. One of my favorite new tools for this is Dazl. It's purpose-built for product managers, designed to be a teammate across the full product lifecycle, from ideation to handoff-ready prototype. Instead of bouncing between separate tools for PRDs, design, prototyping, you can stay in one place and keep everything in sync. In Dazl, I like to work with short, precise prompts, just the essentials. I'm going to paste a prompt that says, I'm building an onboarding for an AI newsreader. I need a collapsible multi-select, a sticky submit button, and I want you to generate a few sample categories and topics. When I run this prompt, Dazl first generates a structured plan, basically a mini PRD, before it builds anything. What's nice is you can edit this plan, requirements, structure, implementation details, before you hit build. For example, I add use emojis for every category. Then I hit build. After a few moments, we have our first prototype. A couple of things I love. The UI comes out clean and usable. The copy is surprisingly solid for a prototype. It's easy to click around and feel the interaction, and you'll often see product thinking touches. For example, the first category is expanded by default to reduce friction. The submit button enables and disables dynamically based on whether you've selected anything, and it made those decisions without me having to specify those in the prompt. In the chat, Dazl will frequently ask smart follow-up questions like, do you want a confirmation screen after submit? Or should there be a select all per category? Importantly, you can already get a feel for how the product works in action. This is just the starting point. One of the things I love about Dazl is that it scales as your prototypes get more complex. A great example is the documents feature. PMs juggle a lot of context: PRDs, brand guides, design systems, competitor screenshots, and Dazl lets you bring all of that context into your prototyping tool, and it can reference it while it builds. So imagine that after our first prototype, the team hands us a more detailed PRD that specifies additional functionality, the brand's tone of voice, a full design system, and the fact that we want 2 variants, not just one. In our case, the PRD lives in Notion. Rather than copying and pasting across tools, I can use the Notion MCP server from Dazl's add-ons panel. That gives Dazl a live connection to my Notion workspace, so I can pull the PRD straight in as a document. And now Dazl is working from the actual source of truth, not a stale copy. This is one of my favorite Dazl moments. Now that the PRD is loaded as a document, I don't have to reprompt every requirement by hand. I can just say, update the prototype so it's in line with the spec, and then I can reference the spec. That single instruction is enough for Dazl to reconcile what we've already built with what the PRD says, pulling in the new variant, the brand voice, and the full design system in one pass. And here's the result. We now have both variants, the collapsible categories view and the single scrolling list, toggleable from the same prototype. The whole thing has been reskinned with the design system from the PRD, typography, color, spacing, tone of voice is on brand. The point isn't that any single piece is magic, it's that the prototype now actually reflects the spec end to end without me having to hand translate it. Another feature that helps Dazl scale as prototypes get more sophisticated is skills. Skills are like skills in Claude or Claude Code, lightweight, reusable mini tools that you define once and invoke whenever you need them. In our case, the brand book asks for witty copy, so instead of hand editing every headline, helper text, and button label, we build a skill once and run it whenever we want. Here's the prompt to create the skill. Let's build a skill to generate witty copy. The skill should take in a piece of copy and then output a witty, snarky piece of copy that adds personality to our prototype. Once the skill exists, I can apply it across the whole prototype with one prompt. For example, I can say something like, update all the topics using the witty copy skill. And here's what comes back. The category names and topics pick up the new voice. The tagline and button copy comes along for the ride too. The structure of the prototype doesn't need to change, only the copy does. The takeaway? Once a skill exists, you have a new reusable lever you can pull across the entire prototype whenever you need it, instead of making dozens of individual changes by hand. Now that we have variants, we can really play with it. Once we were looking at the prototype working, we noticed something that neither version does well. They both burn a lot of vertical space and waste horizontal real estate on larger screens. That sparked a third idea. show categories under each category, and show a row of pills. We can do this with a prompt like, add a third option, a list of categories, and under each category, a series of tappable pill chips for topics. Let me toggle between all three interfaces, collapsible categories, single scrolling list, pills per category. Now we have three interactive variants to compare side by side, collapsible, long list, and pills. On mobile, the pills don't save us as much space as we had hoped. On larger screens, they work better, but the key point is that we don't have to guess. We can actually see it working live. And here's the part that usually is painful for PMs. As you iterate on the prototype, the PRD goes stale almost immediately. Dazl lets you go the other direction too. With the PRD already loaded as a document, let's bring our PRD in line with our prototype. And Dazl walks through the PRD, updates it to match the current state of the build. Notice that the updated PRD now explicitly references all three variants, collapsible, long list, and pills, alongside the new copy and UX details. So the spec and the prototype stay in lockstep. That two-way sync is a big deal. Your PRD stops being a snapshot from week to week and becomes a living document that reflects what you're actually building. After living with all three variants for a bit, we chose the collapsible version. It helps users understand the full scope of what's available without dumping everything on the screen at once. The long list took too much scrolling, and the pill variant felt a bit noisy on mobile. And if we want to be rigorous, we can publish these three variants and put them in front of users to measure which UI people prefer, which leads to more topics selected, and which feels least overwhelming. This is what I love about prototyping. It turns product sense debates into something you can validate with working software. And that's where Dazl earns its spot in a PM stack. Most AI tools are a blank screen, a prompt, and a deployed app. That's not how PMs actually work. Dazl is spec-driven, so as your PRD evolves from a prototype, it stays true to it. It's a teammate at every step of the product lifecycle, from ideation through to handoff-ready prototype, and it scales with the messy middle of real product work. Multiple variants, real design systems, brand voice, and PRDs all kept in sync as you iterate. That's the bar I'd set for any PM tool a PM brings into their workflow. Big thanks to Dazl for sponsoring this video. If you've been waiting for an AI tool that fits how product managers build, this is the one I'd spend an afternoon with.